So, federal agency chargeable tax gun purchase case against Hunter Biden. Significant thing is that this actually made the Washington Post. We all know there's a major case to be made. Federal agents investigating President Biden's son Hunter have gathered what they believe is sufficient evidence to charge him with tax crimes and a false statement related to a gun purchase. All right, we talked about this last night when it broke, but I'll come back to my initial thought. I think this might be, sadly, a good sign for Hunter Biden. I don't like the tenor of this. I want to bring in the expert, Eric Eggers, Vice President of Research at the Government Accountability Institute. He's the co-host of the Drill Down podcast, and he's an expert on all things corruption and Biden's and all that stuff. Eric, welcome back. How are you?
Hey, thanks, Greg. And it's such a good point you make. I mean, why is the Washington Post talking about Hunter Biden now? It's kind of like me talking about skinny jeans. The time to do it was years ago, and now it's just a bad look, and it's not going to matter. Let's not forget, this is an issue that swung the election 2 years ago. But I'm interested in why you think this is a good sign for Hunter Biden.
Well, two things. Number one, they're talking about the gun issue, and allegedly overwhelming evidence suggests that he lied on his application for the gun. Now, as you know, that's not prosecuted all that often, and when it is, the penalties tend not to be severe. I know technically it's up to 10 years in jail, but nobody ever does 10 years in jail for that. And the tax things, to me, smack of a civil case, and no one's talking about the foreign influence and registering as a lobbyist and all those potential violations, which entail a much more significant penalty. That's why I see this as potentially, not the worst news in the world for Hunter Biden.
No, I think you're exactly right. A gun charge and potential tax issues pale in comparison to the severity of espionage or being cultivated by America's greatest threat, which is China. We know, and we've spoken before about the fact that this is part of China's game plan, is to cultivate assets with high-ranking officials in the United States. And the fact that Hunter Biden traveled with Joe Biden on Air Force Two and then launched his Chinese investment fund within 2 weeks of that trip, I think tells you how deep this thing goes. And we now, as more emails come out, and by the way, as the laptop, which should have, again, I think, dramatically impacted the election, but was censored by, among other people, the Washington Post reveal, Joe Biden is enmeshed in Hunter Biden's business dealings with, among other people, the Chinese government. So you're absolutely right. If the worst thing that Hunter Biden is facing is charges of tax evasion and potentially a gun charge and potentially, amateur photography skills, then I think it's probably a good day for Hunter Biden.
I want to go back to Tony Bobolinsky at that debate in 2020. Just before the debate started, he comes out and makes, a really shocking statement that is promptly ignored by most of the press. Take a look.
I was introduced to Joe Biden by Jim Biden and Hunter Biden. At my approximately hour-long meeting with Joe that night, we discussed the Biden's history, the Biden's family business plans with the Chinese, with which he was plainly familiar, at least at a high level. After that meeting, I had numerous communications with Hunter, Walker, Gilliar, and Jim Biden regarding the allocation of the equity ownership of Sinohawk. On May 13, 2017, I received an email concerning allocation of equity, which says 10% held by H for the big guy. In that email, there's no question that H stands for Hunter, big guy for his father, Joe Biden, and Jim for Jim Biden. In fact, Hunter often referred to his father as the big guy or my chairman. On numerous occasions, it was made clear to me that Joe Biden's involvement was not to be mentioned in writing, but only face-to-face. In fact, I was advised by Gilliar and Walker that Hunter and Jim Biden were paranoid about keeping Joe Biden's involvement secret.
You know what I heard this week? That nobody, since Joe Biden has become president, and after Bobolinsky made that statement, not one person has asked Joe in a public forum, hey, have you ever met with Tony Bobolinsky? Because he says he's met with you. No one has asked Joe Biden that. Isn't that kind of incredible?
It's absolutely incredible, but unfortunately not all that surprising. I mean, remember, we're talking about a mainstream media that didn't just not report on the findings that were in Hunter Biden's laptop within 2 weeks of the election. They helped to actively censor it and discredit it. And we also know that they weren't alone in that. The FBI took part in that as well, as they've admitted. So what I think, unfortunately, we need to take a really hard look at is the fact that the mainstream media is going to be not helpful on this. And you know that. That's why programs such as yours are so valuable. At the Government Accountability Institute, we've actually had access to multiple sets of Hunter Biden's emails, including, and been able to corroborate it with the help of people like Mr. Bobulinski. And what I can tell you, Greg, is that of all the emails we've seen numerous references to the big guy. We've seen numerous references to, financial dealings that suggest a very close and intimate relationship with Hunter Biden and his father. The one email we haven't seen is somebody coming to Hunter Biden and saying, hey, we'd like for your father to do this, and him saying, no, that's too much. We have yet to find any email in which he says, no, my father, he's unwilling to get involved on this topic. Unfortunately, I've seen numerous examples of the opposite.
So the Attorney General, Merrick Garland, swears that he's not paying attention to this. This is not my purview. It's all up to the U.S. Attorney, a guy named Weiss. And by the way, the whole leak, which was probably an authorized leak in the Washington Post, that guy on the right, Chris Clark, he's Hunter Biden's lawyer. He wants people arrested now. It's kind of amazing. There's one leak, and he's demanding arrest after, what Donald Trump went through in terms of leaks. And I don't know if people are aware of this. I find it stunning that Chris Clark, his law partner, is a guy named Perry, who's married to Liz Cheney. That swamp, it is. Can it get any swampier, Eric?
It absolutely cannot, and you're absolutely right. Imagine Chris Clark's main quote is, it's not that my client is innocent of not only tax evasion and potentially gun charges, but also, again, actively working with the Chinese government and making money off of helping connect foreign entities with access to power. But Chris Clark's complaint is that someone told on us inappropriately and that someone's leaking information. And as far as Merrick Garland saying that he has absolutely no idea, that's laughable. If you believe that, then I think that, you would believe many other things that I think we could talk about at a later date. But of course, it seems implausible that the Biden Justice Department has no knowledge of whether or not Joe Biden's son is going to be charged with crimes.
Very quickly, do you think, is this the momentum here around Hunter? Does it have anything to do with potential momentum they want to get Trump? This makes it somehow easier to indict Trump if they go after Hunter. I've heard this kicked around. Do you buy it? Is there anything to that?
I don't buy it. It could be true, but to me what it does is show how silly the incredible hysteria that the media has reached over what's happened with President Trump is compared to what's happened with Hunter Biden. Multiple agents raided the Trump home for documents. Meanwhile, we've got potentially state secrets and technologies being transferred to enemies being conducted via business with the president's son, and that's been ignored. Which one matters more?
Eric, it's kind of uncanny. I can't not mention it. You look a little bit like Hunter Biden. Have you ever gotten that before? Right now, in this lighting, whatever it is, and I'm not talking about the drugged out psycho. I'm talking about when he was all cleaned up at the White House. There is a resemblance.
Hey, it's Friday night. It could be a resemblance in many other ways, Greg. But what I will tell you is, no, I have actually gotten that before. In fact, we run a very clean ship here at the Government Accountability Institute. But it has been noted that I am the Hunter Biden of the office. Yes, sir.
Okay. Sometimes I make that observation, and no, Greg, only you. But I'm glad it's not only me. Eric Eggers, check it out. The Government Accountability Institute. You got to go to g-a-i.org, or you can just go to the Drill Down podcast. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Greg.
All right, we're back with